Welcome to the Lori and Cher show, Hacking into Awesome. I'm Lori Williamson.
And I'm Cher Jones.
And if you don't know, Cher and I are cousins, and we host this weekly Google Plus Hangout where we talk to absolutely amazing people and totally hack in to what makes them awesome.
That's right, Lori Williamson, and I am super excited about today's show. But if you guys are watching on YouTube, I have a few housekeeping little things I want to say to you because we love you guys, and we love hearing from you guys. So if you guys are watching on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe so we can let you know what's coming up next in new episodes that are uploaded to our YouTube channel. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, leave them below because, you know, we love hearing from you. And naturally, if you are on Facebook, show us some love by giving us the like. We're getting up there. We're up at 600 now, Lori, which is super exciting. And you can go to facebook.com/LoriandCher to find us on Facebook.
Well, Cher, I mean, I don't know. If anyone knew what Google Hangouts were, they would be like, it's kind of hard to deal with them. And right now, I feel like we are just dealing with a whole host of things. Like, who knows what's happening out in Hangout world? But we're making our way through. So
that's right.
This is so weird because we've done it so many times now, Cher, and I just feel like all of a sudden it's like 2 minutes before broadcast and everyone wants to drop off the call. So bear with us tonight, folks.
It's all good.
Hopefully Google gets their act together. But tonight, you know what? We're going to be talking about picking up the pieces after loss. It can be literally one of the hardest things to do, and our featured guest tonight, Christina Rasmussen, is an author. She has this huge tribe that absolutely loves the knowledge and the advice that she gives. She's the author of the book Second Firsts, Live, Laugh, and Love Again. And she'll be joining us a little bit later on the show to give us tools. Everyone, it's tools that she'll be giving us in order to get your life back on track, to start all over again. So we look forward to Christina joining us in the show in just a little bit. But of course, we're going to be talking hot topics tonight, right, Cher?
Absolutely. What would our show be without hot topics, right?
Absolutely. And we actually have joining us Miss Roxy Firestone. She is a fellow Hangout on-air host. So we're happy to have a veteran of the Hangouts joining us. She's foxy, she's friendly, and she's totally fun. Welcome to the show, Roxy.
Thank you so much. I am fired up to be here.
Absolutely, we're great. And we did have Lakeisha Lusant. She was on the show with us. She was in the green room hanging out, and then I don't know what happened. As I said, we were having some technical difficulties, so hopefully we'll get Lakeisha on the show. You know, she's a renowned inspirational speaker, author, poet, and I can't even say it, philanthropist. Yeah. And Cher, we're going to have to definitely make sure that she comes back on the show another time.
Exactly. So tonight we're going to start off our hot topics with, I mean, what would a hot topic, or how can you not have a hot topic if you don't have a Kardashian? So first we're going to be talking about not Kim, not Khloe, but Rob. He was spotted in LAX coming back from Kim's wedding.
No, heading.
And, right, going to the wedding. And basically, you know, everybody's on him because he got a little chubby. And what's interesting is that he's like, basically, can you leave me alone? Yeah, I know I'm fat, stupid, obviously. And that's basically what he tweeted out. And he's like, I'm a grown man and I'll work on myself when I choose. I'm aware that I'm fat and definitely not a surprise to me. And the only therapy I will be is in the gym. So people were saying, hey, are you going to any kind of drug rehab or a therapy or a fat camp? So what do you think about this, Roxy? What are your thoughts on this? Like, this poor man, like, leave him alone, but what do you think?
Really? You know, we need to really, America needs to get over ourselves. I mean, when does it matter? I mean, all of a sudden, well, not even all of a sudden, but just all through our history, so much emphasis is put on our outer appearance, you know, and it's really sad, and I'm so glad that he stood up for himself, and, you know, he says, accept me the way that I am. Here I am, love me, you know, just the way that I am. And I admire him because so much his emphasis is put on weight and appearance, and, you know, we see it in our media. You know, women, we're not allowed to age gracefully. You know, there's all types of wrinkle creams and cosmetics, and you know, it's like double standards because men can grow old gracefully, right? They can get
Mhm.
gray, they can get old, they can get overweight, and it doesn't seem to really matter, right? But with women, it's a whole different story. We have to stay young, we have to stay vibrant, we have to stay beautiful. So good going. I'm glad for Rob. Say it loud and say it proud. I'm fat.
I love it. What about you, Lori?
You know what? The unfortunate thing
Lori?
is, can you hear me? Well, the unfortunate thing with
The
Rob
hangout
is
left.
that he is a public. Can you hear me?
I think we
I can.
lost.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I can
Anyway,
hear you
so
now.
the reality of the situation is. Okay. The reality of the situation is Rob and his family have chosen to live in the public eye. They're really famous for not doing anything other than entertaining us on E! With Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I think the fact that Rob did Dancing with the Stars and was completely svelte, he looked amazing. I mean, if you juxtapose what he was looking like a couple years ago to what it is now, I mean, that is something that's really, really hard, I can imagine, to be faced with the fact that you are no longer, you're probably like, 50, 60, 100 pounds, I have no idea, heavier. So I can't imagine the scars, because I know Chloe had tweeted out to people like the fact that he was trending on Twitter as Rob Kardashian is fat. The emotional scars that I can't imagine what he's dealing with, so it really, really sucks. I think there was some other kind of NFLer was kind of saying that he really, really kind of sides with Rob, and he knows what it's like to live in the public eye and to gain weight. And he says that, when you're living that life of abundance and luxury where you get to go out to meals, like really luxurious meals, it's hard to just ask for, something simple as fish and vegetables. So I know it's hard. So it's too bad, and at least he addressed it. I mean, the best way, and I hope that he gets whatever help he needs to kind of get past this. Because really, at the end of the day, once he loses the weight, I'm sure, hopefully, whatever else is bothering him will also be worked out.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, for me, it hit kind of close to home. So here's a shot. I'm also on a show, for those of you who don't know, and for those of you who do, I'm on a show called Stephen and Chris. It airs on CBC in Canada and Live Well Network in United States. And anyways, we did a fitness episode, and I just test products, so that's my one little segment on this show. And we had a person basically. And it's funny because it's like it hit home because I'm not a celebrity by any stretch of the imagination, but yet we still have people criticizing me. So yesterday it was, people don't realize, I covered her name because you can go on Stephen and Chris Facebook page if you want to see who it is, but I'm not about that. But people don't realize animal fat does not melt at 96.6 degrees. These girls are way too fat for their age and size. God, girls, get to the gym and stop eating fast food. Shame on you for letting your bodies go to disgusting blob fat. Come on and wake up. I've been 105 my whole life, and I still fit into my wedding dress, and I have to because I want to be buried in it. So basically, that was her message to us. And I mean, the other two girls, I am definitely overweight. The other two girls are size 5, a size 6, if you will, and not that that matters. And I didn't know that being smaller, being celebrity or a celebrity is one of the requirements was to be skinny. So to that lady, good for you and your 105 pounds. So yeah, I'll let that one go. But just wanted to share that. Everybody has those moments, and the fat shaming is not necessary. So we have the Keisha back on, which is fantastic. We introduced you, Keisha, and we were just talking about. It's nice to have you back, Kim Kardashian, and actually Rob Kardashian, and now we're heading into talking about Will and Jada being in kind of hot water for these pictures. Have you guys seen them on the internet? Basically, the story is that their parenting skills are under fire because their daughter, 13-year-old daughter, is shot with this 20-year-old man, not boy, man, without his shirt off. So basically, the Los Angeles Department of Children and Family Services has gotten involved. Do you think that's fair? And Lakeisha, I'll start with you. Do you think that's fair that the authorities need to get involved because their 13-year-old daughter is pictured in this picture?
I kind of think it varies. Like, if the parents know for a fact nothing was going on, then I wouldn't see a reason for them to get involved. But if the parents did not know and they're getting involved, maybe it's a sign that, hey, you know, just because they're celebrities, they can't be under the radar as well. So it just depends on the situation. Really depends.
What about you, Roxy? What do you think?
Well, I don't have children, and it's sometimes it's a little bit. I have to respond with caution, because the first thing people like to say or point out to me is, well, you don't have children. That doesn't negate the fact that I have a nurturing instinct, that I am a mother in so many areas, that I love children and I look out for children. And I think the biggest plus that I could see in the whole situation was the cool, calm, and collected response that Jada and Will had in response to Child Protective Services being called. They were like, you know what? You guys are projecting your trash, your filth, your dirty minds into this whole situation. We're fine with it. Do what you will. Check into it. Investigate to your heart's content. We have nothing to hide. I really admired that. I thought that that was the best response, that they didn't get angry, because I would get a little fired up about it. You know, I would, if I were being called under attack like that, I would get a little bit defensive. I'm just saying. So I admire the way that they handled it, and I think that it was an overreaction. It was a very innocent-looking picture. I didn't see anything wrong with it. I thought it was a little bit of an overreaction for services to get involved with it. That's my opinion.
And Christina, I know you have two daughters. I'm just going to bring you in on this conversation as well. I know you have two daughters. What were your thoughts seeing that picture? Does that rile you up as a parent that that shouldn't happen, or you think that they're trying to make an example out of Will and Jada?
I think if I saw my 12-year-old or 14-year-old daughter in that photograph, I would have been very upset, I have to say. And I don't know the behind the scenes and experience that she was having. I don't know why this happened, how the picture was out into the world. We don't know. I don't know any of this, but just the atmosphere of the picture, you know, what it may mean, that would hurt me as a mom. I would be very upset about it. But I'm a little overprotective. They're so young at that age. They are so young. But celebrities have a very different lifestyle that we cannot imagine. Their maturity and their life experiences are very different from our own. So I could never imagine what it would mean for her parents to see that picture. But for me, no way. I wouldn't like it at all.
Exactly. No, I feel the same way. And I'm going to move on to our next topic. And I want you guys to take a look at the screen right now. Every single one of these 5 pictures have something in common. Do you guys know what that could be? No, eh? I bet the baby names. So on the right we have North for Kanye and or Kim and Kanye's baby. We have Sunday from Mike Myers, named his daughter Sunday. Rocket Man Williams was Pharrell's son. Future was Sierra. She just had her baby, and that's what actually spawned on this whole special board here. And then as well, Bear is Kate Winslet's daughter, I think, right, Lori?
Or son, yes.
Yeah, son. Yeah, I don't even know. I mean, come on. So, yeah, we found this quite interesting. I mean, talking about the lives of celebrities. I mean, Roxy, when you hear these names, what do you think of for these children in the future? Does it matter because they're so rich?
I'm inspired. I say go for it. You know, I just love being creative, and you know, the further out you can be, I say go for it. Maybe I have a celebrity heart, you know, but I just, moonbeam, sunbeam, moonflower, sunflower, whatever. Just, yes, be creative, be out there, be unique. I say go for it, yes.
That's right, Roxy Firestone. Absolutely. With a name like Roxy Firestone, how can you not appreciate something like that. Lakeith, would you do that to your children?
I I don't think I would, because kids are cruel these days. And so, just thinking of even Sierra's, child's name, future, just think about being in a class and they're talking about past, present, and future. It just kind of brings that child out more. I mean, it just depends. It's just, I wouldn't do it for my child.
Right.
Because I look back over at the names I've named one of them, and I'm like, oh, what was I thinking? So,
no, it's so true. When I had my son, especially our first son, when we had him, I put his name on a resume, and I was like, will this impede him getting an opportunity? So it was one of those things that we think of, but I guess those kids are not applying for jobs anytime soon, or if ever. So, I mean, that whole celebrity life, that allows them to do what they want, because that is the celebrity living. And speaking of celebrities, Toni Braxton is coming out with a tell-all book on Break My Heart, and she talks about abortion guilt and what might have caused her son's autism, and then she feels that she's to blame for her lupus, and also she wants to talk about her family's extreme religious views and just put all the drama out on the streets. It's one thing to write a book. And our guest tonight is going to talk about her amazing book that is all about healing. But it's another thing when you're going to put your business on the streets. Roxy, I love that smile. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking that I do it all the time, and I understand being persecuted, and my family has had issues with me coming out and speaking about mental illness and, the trials and tribulations that I've gone through, and overcoming addiction, and being married, being divorced. And, when I was hosting the Roxy Show, I held nothing back. I'm an open book. I would, just put it out there, and a lot of people don't get that. And, I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm an open book, and I plan on writing a book, and it'll probably be a tell-all as well. I mean, I have nothing to hide. I am proud of who I am. I'm not defined by my past, and I'm looking forward to the end and just going forth and prospering.
Yeah, and I mean, I maybe what she's looking for as well, just like you, is in the sense of helping people to identify, or there are people who will identify with her story. There are people who will
Absolutely.
Have to deal with that.
Let's not keep it a secret any longer. I mean, that's what the problem is right now. You have people that are locked up who have great stories to tell. You have people that are homeless on the streets that are being looked down upon and being overlooked in society. And we're supposed to be a nation that's built upon God and freedom of speech and these values and everything. And we don't have really a common courtesy to listen to our common man, to listen to our neighbor, to love ourselves, to love one another. We shun people. We have all this shame about guilt and hidden things that are, who's an alcoholic and who's taking drugs and substance abuse and all that. It's time to just come clean with that and just say it, get over it, and move on.
For sure. Lori, being a producer, Lori was a producer for a major entertainment show that's across Canada, E-Talk. And does this surprise you at all, seeing something like this? I mean, you must be used to it at this point.
No, it doesn't. And, I always think that everything is so well planned in a celebrity's life, in the sense that, this isn't something that they come out with their book, their tell-all book at the beginning of their career. It's something when they're looking for a resurgence that they tend to come up with a memoir. I mean, she says that it's supposed to be a healing journey for her. Whether or not she's really using it personally to heal, or if she is looking to inspire other people, I have no idea. But there is no surprise that, Toni Braxton does have some financial issues. I think she's declared bankruptcy. So, use your celebrity to do whatever you want to do. I can think that it's not just a healing book. I think there's a little bit more to it than just that.
And Lakeisha, your thoughts on that?
Well, I kind of like what she's doing simply because I wrote a tell-all myself, and it was therapeutic for me and it helped me. I would personally purchase the book because she's talking about something very dear to my heart, which is autism. And my youngest son has autism. So when you hear of other people blaming themselves for whatever has happened to their child during pregnancy, then it kind of, your heart opens up to them. So I kind of like the fact that she's writing the book, to kind of just let her skeletons out of the closet. And, you know, I did it, but not for personal gain, but to help others who are going through things that may be bothering them in their lives. And I just think it's a great thing. She's helping people to see that she's not just a celebrity, but at the same time, she's human just like us, and she goes through things. And it's a phase that people go through, and writing sometimes is a healing process for many people, whereas with others, they can hold it in. And for her, it may be actually a healing process, because it was a healing process for me.
Very interesting. Yeah, very interesting perspective. I really do like that. And the one thing I want to do is thank both of you for being part of our Hot Topics panel. You guys were awesome. You guys brought a lot of great points, and we'll definitely want to have you back on the show. And Lakeisha, your book, Tears of Silence, like, where can we find more information about your book and what you're doing and whatnot on the web?
Okay, they can find my book on Amazon.com. They can learn more about it and me at www.IamLakeisha, that's with LAKISHA.com. And I am Lakeisha Twitter as well.
Perfect. And Roxy, you are undergoing your own transformation and embarking into a lot of new things. Where can people find you on the net?
Well, you can find me on Facebook, Google+, and I have my own website, RoxyFirestone.com or RoxyFirestone.net. You can email me at RoxyFirestone@Yahoo as well. I'm open to having any questions, and although I'm no longer hosting the Roxy Show, I still have a live broadcast on Google on Sunday evenings at 9:30 p.m. with William Blizzard. We are founders of the Church of Jesus Christ, and that's my new venture. I'm a spiritual counselor and life coach.
Wonderful. Well, you guys both, I'd like to thank you for coming out. You guys were great, and you brought a lot of great points, a lot of great perspective, and we both appreciate you.
Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure being here.
Thank you.
All right, so let's talk to our featured guest for tonight. She's a coach, author, and entrepreneur. Christina Rasmussen has literally helped thousands to relaunch their lives, rebuild it, reclaim it, and really it's the power of the human mind that's really done it all. So just wanted to formally welcome you to the show, Christina.
Woohoo!
So good to be here. You guys are awesome, and your energy is so amazing. I have to say, I've done so many interviews. You have such a happy, high energy all around you, and I love it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I love the background. I love your whole, like, the sun is coming in.
The sun, yes, the sun is setting.
Your hair is out, the waves are there. I'm like, I love it. So let's dig into this. I mean, I know that I actually started following you some time ago on Twitter. And, you know, when Cher and I started to get the show together, we were always, like, brainstorming who do we want on the show. And obviously, I believe it must have been, you know, in your timeline, different things come up. People retweet, and obviously someone retweeted something that you said, and then I was like, well, I'm going to follow this lady because I feel like she has some kind of inspirational words that need to be shared or that can uplift me, because I feel like sometimes that's what Twitter is for, especially if you kind of hone your timeline to have inspirational messages that kind of really impact you. It kind of really takes your life for the day into a different direction. So I thank you for that.
No, thank you for following me. And Twitter, I love Twitter. It's about relationships there. It's about connecting with other peers and read together. I love Twitter.
Of course. So, I mean, your background is in therapy. Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Yeah. So your background really is in therapy, in crisis management. You were a counselor, correct?
Yes, I have my master's in counseling psychology, and my thesis was on the stages of bereavement when I was in my 20s. And everyone thought I was crazy to do that. And of course, I had not really experienced tragic loss. It was just a passion. I love people so much, and I remember thinking in my 20s, I don't know how I would experience loss. It would be devastating. So I wanted to help people really start over, and I didn't know at the time that all those bad things were going to happen to me. I had no clue.
Of course. I mean, isn't that the story that everyone thinks, oh, well, that will never happen to me until it actually happens?
Yes, and it happens to all of us. When I experienced the loss, I have to say that I didn't expect it to feel so bad. I thought it would be devastating, but not insane, completely insane. And in that moment, I said to myself, there are millions and millions of people who go through loss every single day, and nobody can help them.
Of course. And I mean, really, loss isn't just, I mean, we're going to talk a little bit more about your story, but loss isn't just like the death of somebody. You know, it is the loss of a marriage. Yes. It could be the loss of a relationship, a breakup, the loss of a great job. There's so many different things that grief can kind of happen all of a sudden in your life, very, like, instantly. Like, everything could pretty much change. But share your personal story, because I think you have a very touching story, and I think it's one in which I'm sure you don't imagine that you're ever going to go through something like that. Like, I can't, like, listening to you, or, you know, reading about your story, I couldn't imagine going through it. But the reality is this could be anyone's story. So share that for us today.
And Lori, I so agree with what you said, and part of my mission is to re-educate the world that loss is part of everyday life, that we experience loss from the day we're born and our mom leaves the room and leaves us in the crib to the day we die. Loss is part of our evolution. So that's been part of my mission, and I am so passionate about this. You have no idea. I can really, my hair can stand up, but I love this work. So my story, I was very in love with my husband. I cannot tell you how much I adored him. We were living this normal life with our two little daughters. At the time he was diagnosed, Isabel was 9 months old, and Alina was 2.5 years old. And we went to the doctors, and he had found a lump on his neck. And he said to me, "Honey, look at this. What do you think this is?" So we went to the doctors, and they biopsied. And they found he had stage 4 colon cancer. He was 31 years old.
Wow.
And I will never forget that moment, and the moment of diagnosis, the moment of impact. I always say there's this moment when your husband leaves you, or when you find out he's cheating on you, or when you lose your job, you're fired, or when your high school best friend doesn't invite you to her party, or whatever, when your husband is diagnosed. All these are traumatic moments of impact. The moment of the diagnosis was I became dehydrated. Like, my body could not absorb the news. I went and threw up in the bathroom. I could not take that experience. They gave him at the time 6 months to live, and we fought to keep him alive for 3.5 years. He died at 35, age 35 in 2006, and I have spent my life since that day trying to get me back. And then when I got myself back, I went back to get everyone else. And this is what I'm doing here today, and every single day of my life.
And I mean, you just look at the outpouring, not only just sympathy, but support and community that you have through sharing that story using social media. You talked about Twitter, you talked about that, and how it's all about relationships. And if you head over into any one of your Facebook pages, you just see the need for what you're doing, and it's just so exciting that out of this loss comes purpose and a wonderful opportunity to touch people's lives with what you learned and what you studied, and you had no clue that even that stuff that you set up for, and you still were not ready for what you experienced. It's amazing to see how you're being used for that.
And Cher, I have to say that I remember my first Facebook post, and I remember the first person who liked my page, who I didn't know who they were, not a friend, like an unknown. And I remember getting up from my chair and saying, "Oh my God, who's that person?" Someone from far away liked my page, and now we're at tonight will be 170,000 people on Facebook, and I think that it's about everyone's ability to connect with people who have had similar experiences, because we live a very isolated life. I decided to create a non-profit organization that is going to be all online. It's going to be all online, and I'm going to go through the computer screen, and I'm going to take every person who's sitting in front of their computer alone, afraid to go to support groups, afraid to go and see a therapist, afraid to connect and live again, and grab them and bring them back to life, metaphorically speaking. But it is, you know, Cher and Lori, I always say something is pushing me from behind, because it's too, I'm too passionate about this, and I am like this all the time, which is exhausting completely for me, but I wouldn't be able to shift so many people's lives every single day if I wasn't driven in the way that I am, because I've experienced pain, I have seen loss, I have really met thousands of people who are living alone by themselves with just a dog. Nobody cares about them, and that breaks my heart completely and totally.
I feel so emotional, like, listening to you, you know, going back and, you know, you think of, like, your own time in your own life where you feel like, I think of the times when I've had some major loss in my life, and it's just, yeah, it's like, you know, I think we all experience grief in different ways.
Yes.
And what is it that, you know, like, do people realize that they're grieving? Like, in your experience, do you find that, like, grief happens in different ways? Is it different for men? Is it different for women?
Yes. So for men, grief is very different. And I have to say, and for the men who are listening to us, I want to say that it's okay. No criticism, no judgment on, they're just able to rebuild and re-enter faster. I'm not sure whether they're healed, but their needs are different than the needs of women, period. It's what it is. Every single person grieves differently, and there's millions of people who are grieving and they don't know that they are, because our society has not educated us about loss and grief, that it happens multiple times every week. It happens all the time when we feel rejection, abandonment, when our parents didn't really take care of us. I have met so many people with so many different losses. Having acne, I had acne when I was a teenager, and I asked the boy out and he rejected me. Do you know how terrible I felt in that moment? Nobody told me that was loss. I found out when I was 42 that was loss. You know, now I just discovered that, and my next book will be about the bigger picture of loss, so people realize that they're grieving, so they can validate their loss, acknowledge it. The reason why we go into a place, I always say this, people exit one life after a divorce or a death or a job loss, whatever that is, and they think their second life, their second chapter begins immediately. That is not true. They go to a place between two lives, the life they left behind and the life they're yet to have. And I call that place the waiting room. How many times you've heard people say, give it time, wait. And people go wait for years and years and years. And some people die in that waiting space. I'm here to free those people from the waiting room. And the number one thing that I found was that most people in the waiting room are not people who have had tragedy, are people who have had very small invisible losses, and they didn't know there were losses.
So let's talk about you. I mean, obviously this is infectious. Your passion for this topic, you know, for helping people. You can see it's absolutely contagious. You see that, you know, you obviously are living like the American dream, which is to do something that you're passionate about, to talk to people, to help people, to touch people. But let's talk a little bit more about your story and how you went from being in that waiting room, right? How long do you feel like you were in the waiting room before you decided to get into the second chapter of your life?
That's a very good question. After he died, I became desperate because I wasn't working when he died. There were babies. My children were so small. And Lori and Cher, I was like, oh my gosh, I won't be able to feed my children. What am I going to do? So I went back to school and I got a business postgraduate degree. So I have like all these degrees which don't really matter, by the way, at all. Forget about them. It's life experience that matters. So I went back to school and then I got a job in the corporate world. So I thought I was living life again. So I was in that corporate job for 3 years and surviving, and everyone from the outside tells you, wow, you're doing so well, look at you, right? Look at you, Christina. You got a job, you got promoted, you're feeding your children, you were able to keep the house and pay the mortgage.
Right.
I was dating again, but I hated my job. I knew this was not the job for me, but it was paying the bills. And I was waiting, and I was there thinking, who am I to complain? Look what I was able to get back into full swing, to be able to do this. And one day I realized, I said, Christina, what are you waiting for? I really literally said that. I cried. I was in the kitchen. I cried. And the next day I went to work, and I turned to my manager, who I had just hired, and I was training her. She was a director. I said to her, 2 weeks from now, it will be my last day here.
Oh,
Goodbye.
wow.
And I exited the waiting room, and the next day I literally founded Second Firsts. And when you exit the waiting room, and for everyone who's listening, you're blind. You don't know what you're going to find. You have no idea if it's going to work out. But that adventure spirit and that ability to say, okay, it's going to be hard, and it was not easy, let me tell you, rebuilding your life and reclaiming yourself and finding out who you are is not an easy thing. Reentry is very difficult, and that's why most people stay in the waiting room. And I can talk forever, so please interrupt me anytime.
No, we're just listening to you, just because what you've done is you've articulated in such a very crystal clear way what people are experiencing and didn't have the words to say, yes, I was in a waiting room. I was waiting. I was just trying to I didn't even know that I was waiting, and then all of a sudden you've just made it clear.
Or they are in the waiting room right now listening, and it's just kind of like an aha moment, you know, saying like, is that where I am right now? Because I thought I was on the road.
That's right. And Lori and Cher, do you know, I've had so many emails, people say to me, they're right, oh my goodness, I am in the waiting room. They go like this, and I didn't know it. And they thank me, even just that awareness. And then they look at the book and they take the steps. Okay, how do I get out? I literally said, this is how you get out. This is how you open the door. And do you know why most people stay there? It's not grief at the end. It's fear of losing again. Right? Isn't that the truth?
Oh, yeah. I mean, fear stops us from so many different things. Like you talked about, you know, the different losses and whatnot. And it could be like a loss of an opportunity, a loss of a job, and all of a sudden it's like, I'm afraid to try again because I may fail, or at anything else in life. And it's just like, I can just imagine it, like the dealing of loss, especially of that ultimate loss of losing a loved one. And then that fear of, I can't feel this again because this is awful. And you have to get past it. So yeah, I can just everything that you're saying is so relevant, and I'm so glad to have you on the show and just to be sharing that, because I think people really need to hear the words so that they can articulate their own feelings, because oftentimes that's what the problem is too, is they can't put words to how they feel. So
and Cher and everyone has said that even though I was in that place, you just saying the words, and people always say, how did you come up with the words waiting room? Oh, I kept hearing the word, I am waiting. I'm waiting for this to happen. I'm waiting. All these people I was working with, they were waiting, and I'm like, and I started asking, so are you in the waiting room or something? And every time I see the words waiting room anywhere, I'm like, there we are. Here, there's millions and millions of people stuck in the place between two lives. Boom. Let's get them out. You're getting them out. Your work that you're doing, entertaining, connecting, and you're so human the way you are. You know, you are getting people back to life. Instead of them being, they come and watch you. It doesn't have to be, people always say, you know, I'm going to wait for the prince on the white horse. I'm going to wait. I'm going to change careers. I'm going to, you know, win the lottery. That's not how we get out of the waiting room, by the way. It's the little things. It's the small steps. It's just opening the door and looking outside and saying, okay, all right, I opened the door today. Tomorrow I'll take a step out there. Tomorrow I'll tell my neighbor not to park his car in front of my house anymore. And I don't know if you guys heard about my mailman story that I chased the mailman down the road.
Yes. Share the story for us, because I really want to, like, yes, let's talk about that. And that seemed like a transformational moment for you.
And you know, the reason why I share this story is because people think that it has to be this gigantic step so we can find the portal, right? And for me, it wasn't a gigantic step. It was a very small step. Like, insane, crazy woman, mascara, hair everywhere. It was Christmas. I was in Boston. That's where I used to live, and we had a lot of snow. And I say this like this, is just imagine it was a week before Christmas. My parents wanted to come and visit, and I said, no, Mom and Dad, I want to be in reality with just my daughters. This is my reality, right? So I was in misery, victim. My life is terrible. I'm a widow. You know, I'm so young and I have this terrible life. So the mailman wouldn't deliver my mail because I haven't shoveled. So there was so much snow outside of my house. So the guy, the little car that goes by, would not stop at my
Oh, did we lose her?
I hope not.
Oh.
Space for the car for him to stop. And I remember measuring the space, like, this is big enough. So we go back to the house, and I'm waiting because I had People magazine in there. I know I love People magazine. I read it every week. I had my Christmas cards. I had gifts from people. I had my little, I wanted this. This was my life.
Yeah.
I see the mailman literally with his car stopping for a second, looking at the spot, and driving away.
Oh, no.
I had two choices in that moment in time. One choice, choice number one, which I would have done every time, sit on the couch and cry my eyes out and say, poor me, I can't even get my Christmas cards, right? I cannot even get that. And choice number two was to put on my snow boots and start running down the street, chasing him. So because I was hitting rock bottom, people always say to me, what made you choose choice number two? I said, I was desperate. We have to hit rock bottom sometimes to start going up. So I put on my snow boots with my pajamas and all that, and I started running. I left my kids behind. I literally started running. There was no common sense, no real thought. It was just, I was after the car. I was very angry, and I went 5 blocks. So you know how the car stops and starts, you know, like they deliver? So I would get closer. He would see me in his mirror, wouldn't stop, would move. So at some point, he was able to, he had to deliver a package. So he had to exit the car, go inside the house, come back out. So by then, I am there on his window on the side. Knocking on his door, and I said to him, you didn't stop. He said, well, you could have shoveled better. This is what he said to me. I said, I shoveled the best I could. And he turns around and tells me, my husband had been gone for 1.5 years at that point. He turns around and tells me, you could have asked your husband to do it.
Oh.
And I said, he would if he could, but he's dead. Now give me my mail. The guy, the color of his face was white. I saw his heart leap out of his chest. I felt really bad for him. I'm crying. He gave me the mail. He apologized, and I always got my cards and my mail since that day. But the reason why I share this story is because me going after my life became a part of my everyday experience. I went after a promotion at work. I went on a date to the man that I'm married to today. I started seeing life as mine again, and I did not use my identity of grief to dictate what I do every single day. And that chase down the road changed everything for me.
That's like what took you out of the waiting room into this second part of your life. Mm-hmm. One of the things, I mean, you have this book. It was out in November of last year. how did you come up with the title, Second Firsts?
You know,
I mean, I'm like a mouthful, but then it makes sense.
I know. Your second time round, right? And so it was 2 a.m. It was literally, the funny thing is, this was about a few days after the mailman experience, and 2 or 3 weeks before my first date with my husband. All of those things were happening at the same time, like a cluster of miracles, right? That I had opened this portal. So it's 2 a.m. in the morning. I'm having a glass of wine. I'm saying, I'm done with this job. I didn't leave the job for another year and a half, but I said I need to figure out how to help other people. So I was looking for names on GoDaddy. You know, second chapter, your second chapter, secondchapter.com, nothing. And all of a sudden something came and hit me over the head, and it said Second Firsts. And I said, okay, I'll get that and I'll go to bed. So I claimed it, I bought it, and I parked it and didn't look at it for 2 years at least. And my thing nearly expired. And I was telling someone about it on the phone, and this woman on the other side of the phone screamed when she heard the name. She said, if you don't do something with this, I'm going to take it from you. I said, really? You think? And that's how it all began.
So this book, though, I mean, it's not a memoir. Really, it's like a help book for people, you know?
Yes.
Talk about, you know, and it really is supposed to be used as a tool. And as we said, I mean, we're listening to the background that you have in losing, you know, someone that you loved very dearly. But as we said, grief is so much more than that. Who is this book for? It's not just for someone who's lost a loved one in that sense of them physically leaving the earth, but talk to who this is really for.
So I think the number one surprise for people is that this book is not a memoir. And maybe one day I will write a memoir, but I have so many things to do in my life that this is not the time to do that. So I wanted to write the book that I wish I had to start over. So I would stop listening to people saying, Christina, give it time. But I'm going crazy with pain. Christina, time. Take one day at a time. If I heard one more person tell me this, I would have killed them, I'm telling you. Give it one day at a time. One day at a time hurt a lot. One day felt like a whole year. So this book is about anyone who is stuck because of a life interruption, of something. I call lost life interruptions because grief interrupts our life. And I was doing an NPR interview, and this guy said to me, you know, they're all serious. They're very serious on NPR. I was doing NPR, and this guy said to me, so are you saying, Christina, that when we experience grief, we exit our life and we go somewhere else, and then your process brings us back? I said, that's right. Our life is interrupted, and a lot of people are not even aware. So when you lose your job, when your girlfriend leaves you, when you're rejected, abandoned, when you're divorced, let me tell you, you are grieving even more because the person you're grieving is dead for you and alive for everyone else. Imagine that kind of grief. So this book has helped many different people, and many people bought this book for someone else, and they opened it. And when they opened it, not only they kept it, but they bought like 10 copies for all their relatives. I think that's how the book became so popular, because people were surprised to look inside, to find that this is not a memoir, this is not a traditional book. You guys know that. It's about neuroscience and the brain, and how I am cheating the brain. I cheat the brain and the fear center by slowly exiting the waiting room with actions and steps, and literally helping people rebuild their life. Period. It's about life. It has nothing to do with grief. It's about living again. Because that's what, if you're still alive and your heart is beating inside your chest, then you're not supposed to be grieving. Grief lasts for a period of time, and then if it continues, it becomes venom. If it is replaced with life, it becomes transformational. It's your choice. It's always our choice.
And your life has become transformational because you've remarried. You have now you have 4 daughters.
Yes, I do.
Like, imagine having that life where it's like you were in this place and you thought your life was going to play out that place. And I think it's like that story or that quote that people say where it's like the hardest thing is when I can't even remember it, but it's like the picture that we have in our mind that we think that's the way our life is supposed to be. Yes. And we get so caught up in that, you know, if you get so caught up in that, you're missing out on, you know, as you're saying, your second part. Back then, you probably couldn't imagine that with your daughters, and now you're blessed with 2 more beautiful girls. And I mean, you've reinvented your life, but you're living life in a whole new way that I'm sure you can imagine, and I think that is awesome.
And Lori, I have to say that, so my husband today, who I adore, and people always say, oh, did you replace? First of all, I got married years later after the loss. And second of all, and even if someone gets married quickly, I wrote a blog about the way you live your life after loss is nobody else's business. And people are punishing themselves by waiting. Like, if someone makes you happy and laughing, why don't you go out on a date? Because it's what, 6 months or whatever. Time doesn't exist in grief. Grief is an inhuman experience happening in a human body and lives in a timeless world. Timeless. It's you cannot postpone your life until things get better. You cannot wait for that. But I'm in love, and because of everything that I've been through and everything, Eric is also someone who lost his wife very young. We met at a bereavement group. He sat next to me.
Oh, wow.
I remember looking at him, and he's cute, right, and young, and I'm like, what? And I literally turned my back and kind of go like this, you know, whatever. And I didn't really look at him for 3 months, and he kept saying, nice to meet you. And we didn't go on a date, but it's the reason why I was able to connect with so many people is because I've been through the fear. I experienced the waiting room. I felt how I wanted to stay inside. And every time I put my heart out there, I would come back in the waiting room and go under the bed and hide even more. I know how that feels, but that's why I'm here to free people so they can live, laugh, and love again, because that's what we're here to do, humans, so we can evolve to the next level of our human species. It is as simple as that.
And I think that's something that, I mean, that message just right there, that last part, as far as you saying, you know what, there is no time limit, there are no rules as far as when you can start dating, and so many people need to hear that message. And I mean, including that, you've said so many great things. You're also literally on tour. You're talking about it. You have groups of people that are so super excited and so happy and so blessed to, you know, to come hear you speak live. What has that experience been like for you?
You know, I have the luxury now of saying no to things. So I choose things. So I chose you. I ask my God and soul and say, is this what I need to do next? Is this where I need to go? And when I was on the road, I did about 20 states. I mean, I was on the road for a long time. And I remember the first time I had this line out the door at the bookstore. I have to tell you, it is a humbling experience because I am just like everyone else. And people always say this to me, Christina, you're so normal. I'm like, that is right. If I don't come across as normal, then I'm not supposed to do this job. Then my ego is so big. Staying grounded and of service to my world is what I'm here to do. I really believe that if I don't stay humble and of service, I think God is going to take me out. I really believe we're not supposed to do this any other way. So all these hugs and all these people would come and it would say, you're just like everyone else. And I'm like, that is right. If I can do this, so can you. And obviously you hear I have an accent, right? This is my second language.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can do this in a second language, then everyone can do it even easier than I did.
Absolutely. So,
exactly.
I mean, obviously, I see that you're very passionate about it. I mean, this is obviously, and this is one of the reasons why Cher and I wanted to have you on the show, just because, you know, there's so many people that are dealing with with this. It's very heavy in someone's life, and it can be something that really overtakes your life, and you don't live anymore. But connecting with someone like you, I mean, we're in Canada, but the show airs wherever it lives on YouTube, etc. But how can people? I mean, obviously they can get your book. You can get it on Amazon. But how can someone else kind of connect with you? What kind of work do you do with people?
Where are you in Canada, Lori?
We're in Toronto.
You're in Toronto. I will be in Vancouver for a women's conference in October, all the way the other side. But www.secondfirsts.com and Facebook. If people go, Facebook is also such a big part of my life. I spend hours there, and Twitter. If they just put Second Firsts on Facebook, the page will come up. If you on Twitter, the same. But www.secondfirsts.com and all the information, the book, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, bookstores everywhere. Yes.
Awesome. And then let's talk about Life Starter Organization. Is that the organization that you're bringing up? Just briefly let us know how people when they can expect to hear more about that.
So we are the developer team. Sent me a message yesterday, and they told me we are getting ready to test. They're just fixing the final bugs. You know how my insanity took me down, the mailman chasing him? That is another insane moment, and this is either going to be really big and we're going to have millions of people on there, or it's going to fail. And to tell you the truth, either way, what an experience and what a lesson it will be. It's a social network with the reentry steps, and when people sign up, it's free completely. Nobody's going to ever pay anything. When people sign up, their age turns to 0, and they're a life starter, and they begin connecting and taking steps online with everyone else. And we're going to test for a few months just to make sure that it works, and then by the end of the year, it will open the doors live for everyone to be a part of it. And I will be honored when that happens. It will be bigger than any book I will ever write, bigger than anything I will ever do.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. As I said when I first started the interview with you, I said that it must have been something that you said on Twitter that I saw that reminded, or that kind of just resonated with me. And I know that Cher and I, when we were preparing for the show today, we were looking at some of the quotable things that you said. And I think one of the ones that was, that you said was, I have learned to remember my past without living in it.
Living in it.
Yes. And I think that is just so true. And
yes, and we don't forget, Lori, right? We never forget. Living again doesn't mean forgetting, but we can't live in our past. It's too painful to be there. It's not fair. We should never have to be there.
Well, Christina, we just want to thank you so much for being on this show. I know that you touched me when I think of certain things in my life that have gone on where I can feel from reading the book and, just talking to you, because I think it's obviously a different experience when you're reading the book and then you actually get to talk to the author. I feel a lot of connection and synergy with you. So just want to thank you so much for being on this show. I know Cher enjoyed our talk as well.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. It was just a pleasure. And I'm just happy for the opportunity, that the fact that this lives on YouTube and people are going to be able to watch it and listen to what you have to say and identify with what we talked about today, and know that there's help even within your book, within the community that you're building, within the community through Facebook. I mean, it's such a blessing to be able to serve that way, and just to live that purpose-driven life in the way that God is using you, and just how how everything you look at, just that ordered step and what you're doing right now, and everything happened, and I think that's incredible. So we're definitely encouraged by your experience and your mission, and anything we can do to support, continue sharing what you're doing. When your community gets off, let us know so that we can share it with our community, because our tribe just loves what you're doing. So,
sorry. One thing I wanted to say is, I think the difference here with you is that the passion that you have behind it, it makes the complete difference in everything. That you're not just one of those people that seem to be just trying to sell somebody something. It is, you're doing it out of love, and you're doing it out of you want to touch people and you want to make a difference. And I think that passion is just really what shines through. And, you know, I know that you're going to continue to touch people years and years to come as with whatever projects you do, as long as you continue to do this, you know, out of the love that you have in your heart and the passion. So thank you.
And Lori, it could not possibly be any other way. It's such a sacrifice, and I'm going to leave you with this, and I know I talk a lot, so please interrupt me, but there was, when I first started Second Firsts and I resigned, there was a voice that inside my head that said, are you ready for the sacrifice? And I was very confused by that question, because I said, what sacrifice? I'm doing what my dreams, I'm making my dreams come true. I want to help these people. And I only understood that question years later when I was exhausted on the road and doing the things that this is a lot, it's 24/7. This is a lot of work, a lot of financial risk, a lot of people think that authors make all this money, and it's not true. This is really, maybe when you're a celebrity, absolutely, but this is labor of love, and it is a sacrifice, but it's a sacrifice worth making. And if tomorrow was my last day on this earth, let me tell you, I have no regrets as to how I lived it and what I did every single day.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Just hang on there for 1 second. We're just going to end off the show. But Cher, wow, I can't believe it is like almost the end of May, and we've been doing this. It's episode 18, wrapped in such a beautiful way. But you know what, Cher, we're always looking for people like Christina. Awesomeness, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely. So if you are awesome, want to be awesome on our show, you make sure that you connect with us. You hit us up at loriandcher.com/guest and apply to get on the show, because we want to talk to you. We want to share your mission, share what you're doing with our crew, and just learn more about you. And, of course, next week, Lori, we have a really good show planned, and we have Lisa Washington. She is the first NBA/WNBA agent in Canada. She's an entrepreneur and also a philanthropist. So she's going to be on the show next week, so we are excited about that. And yes, Lori, we have just now wrapped one more show. Episode 18 is in the books.
Yay.
Hey.
Well, thank you so much to all of our guests, Roxy, Lakeisha, and of course Christina. And we will see everyone next week.
That's right. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.
Bye.